Here's the reality. You now have 6 guys at $50 million or above. The market keeps increasing. And you mentioned a few names. Let's talk about these guys. Dak Prescott. I saw a report over the weekend. You know, in the slow time, especially on the weekends, I'm always looking for stuff to report. And I saw that somebody from ESPN, I think Jeremy Fowler, he does the Sports Center hits on the weekend. Not that anybody even watches Sports Center anymore. I mean, does anybody watch Sports Center anymore? It went from appointment viewing at one time to, oh, that's on. But especially like when they're churning it on the weekends. But anyway, I digress. Something about the Cowboys are determined not to let Dak Prescott become a free agent. Well, there's only one way to do that. You got to pay him. Yeah. You can't keep him from becoming a free agent. You can't franchise tag him. You can't restrict him in any way. His contract currently has been specifically engineered to give him a path to the open market. That's why it created a very big incentive to get an extension done before the final year of the contract. That's why I said from the moment the contract was done and I understood all the ramifications and the structure and everything else, this is a better deal than Patrick Mahomes. It's a better deal. Why? Because he's going to be back at the table sooner rather than later. He's going to be back there in 3 years, and he's going to be in a position where he says, oh, you had a fire, F you, pay me. Business is bad, F you, pay me. Place got hit by lightning, F you, pay me. And that's why he's got more leverage than anyone right now. You throw on top of it, they got the gigantic salary cap number for him that is keeping them from doing a deal with CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons, even more leverage. So I've been saying for months, his next deal starts with a 6, or I should do it like that so it looks the right way from your perspective, anyone who's watching, and thank you if you are. And he's only going to be more determined to get a deal with a new money average of $60 million or more, Charean.
Let's compare this, Mike, to what the Jaguars just did with Trevor Lawrence and what the Cowboys didn't do with Dak Prescott, because he got the leverage when they didn't do the deal after the 3rd year. And they couldn't come to agreement. It took 2 years to come to franchise tags, 2 years to come to an agreement. They finally got that done. All the leverage went to Dak Prescott. He has no trade clause and a no tag clause. So if he chooses at this point to just say, nah, I'm done, I'm not agreeing to anything, I'm just going to hit the open market. Quarterbacks rarely, we saw it with Kirk Cousins, but good quarterbacks rarely hit the open market, Mike. And he has a chance to do that if that's what he wants to do, which means that if the Cowboys are going to sign him now, they're going to have to give him a really good deal. And you're right. It's going to have to be above $55 million a year. That's what his cap hit is this year. So it's going to have to probably start with the 6 to get him signed long-term if that's what they want to do. You know, Jerry Jones kept using the term of, well, the leaves have to fall before we get the leaves have fallen. Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown signed their deals. You can go get CeeDee Lamb done. Now you've had quarterbacks, Jared Goff and now Trevor Lawrence, sign deals. That leaf has fallen. How many leaves do you need to fall? You've had it. You said you could get this thing done in a hurry if you wanted to. It's time. I mean, you've got until the start of training camp. If they don't have this done by the end of training camp, Mike, that's a signal to me that Dak Prescott is going to play out this deal and hit the free agent market. I don't think they get it done.
One of the points that I made in Playmakers as it relates to the franchise tag, people hate the franchise tag. And the franchise tag is bad for players. The franchise tag keeps the best players from going to the market and at least seeing what else is out there in order to get a better deal from the team that they currently play for. And if the team they currently play for doesn't want to pay them accordingly, they can go somewhere else. But there's a way to play the franchise tag game if you're the player to your advantage. It's easier if you're a quarterback because you're likely to play a lot longer than other positions. But we saw Kirk Cousins do it. Now, it's not like he deliberately chose to do it in Washington. They were offering him less than the value of the franchise tag on a long-term deal. $20 million was the franchise tag. They offered him $16 million on a long-term deal. It's kind of easy to say, nah, I'll just play under the franchise tag. But in Dallas, dragged their feet, franchise tag, and Dak was fine with it. And I think what happened was the year they tagged him the second time, they recognized we can't tag him a third time. The franchise tag number goes up 44% over the 20% bump in year 2. The numbers get astronomical very quickly for franchise tags, especially at quarterbacks. So that's when they woke up and said, this guy's got all the leverage. And then they did a deal that was calculated for him to have all the leverage and then some in year 4. And, one of the issues, I think, Charean, with the Dak deal, because I know it was an issue back when they were negotiating with him, 4 years or 5 years, 4 years or 5 years. They wanted 5, he wanted 4. Well, I suspect he probably only wants to do a 3-year extension. So he's back in the same spot in a few years where all the market forces, the salary cap, the contracts for other quarterbacks, they all point to another opportunity to get the bar even higher. That's why his deal is so much better than Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, by signing for 12 years, he just has to rely upon the charity of the Chiefs, and they've already done it. After Burrow got his deal, they went back and moved money around to give him the same cash flow over the next few years. But at some point, they have to do a major overhaul of the Patrick Mahomes contract to make it fair in comparison to the others. And that's the most glaring thing about this. You got 6 guys making $50 million a year or more, and one of them is not named Patrick Mahomes, and one of them is not named Josh Allen.
46.3 million, Mike, is Patrick Mahomes' number, annual average. So yeah, he is well underpaid. He should have the number that starts with a 6. It should be him ahead of everyone else. And it's sort of like Tom Brady. Tom Brady rarely was at top. I don't know if he was ever at top of the market. He was almost always in that middle range, and he was fine with that, or seemed to be fine with that. So, yeah, but Patrick Mahomes is vastly underpaid. I think Dak has gotten the most because he's been willing to wait, because he's been willing to bet on himself, because he's been willing to push I'm getting the shorter term contract. And you're right. I think he probably wants 3 years now, and then he can hit the market again when the price only goes up again, or the Cowboys pay him more because they wait around for those 3 years. So he's going to make much more maybe perhaps than Patrick Mahomes makes in his career, simply because he's waited and bet on himself.
Patrick Mahomes, and I've made this point before, Patrick Mahomes' value to the game transcends the Chiefs. And I don't know how they would do this, but they almost need to have a separate fund with a group of people who decide who are the most important players right now to the sport of football. And we have to have a separate way to pay them, because Patrick Mahomes is worth $100 million to the NFL a year. And some of it should come from the Chiefs, and some of it should come from this broader fund that properly recognizes the value. Now, look, good luck negotiating that if you're the union. The NFL is never going to agree to that. But Mahomes is woefully underpaid relative to his value to the Chiefs, and more importantly, relative to his value to the entire league. Then there's Tua. And, I've been trying to sniff around a little bit on what the Dolphins are going to do with Tua. And this is very easy. I always hate reporting it could go either way, because no shit, there's 2. It could go either way, right? I mean, of course it could go either way. Yeah. But that's kind of where it is. And obviously they believe he deserves a second contract. And even more obviously, they haven't agreed on what it should be, or they'd already have it in place. But Jared Goff, Trevor Lawrence, 53, 55. What's Tua going to want? And I think what's going to happen is, at some point before training camp and or week 1, the Dolphins are going to make their best offer. And it might start with a 4. Probably will start with a 4. And Tua's going to have to ask himself, do I take it, or do I play for $23.1 million in 2024 and see what happens after the season, knowing that they have the franchise tag available, knowing that they still have exclusive negotiating rights until the franchise tag window closes and the negotiating window opens. They still have the power to wait and see. They can franchise tag me once or twice. They can wait. They can do whatever. They can give me a contract during the season. And he's going to have to decide what to do. And what's he going to do? Hold out of training camp? Not play? I mean, he needs a new contract, but at some point, I think he's going to have to give in to whatever the Dolphins are offering if he truly wants to get that new contract.
I think he's in a lot of the same position that Dak Prescott was in after his, third year, fourth year, whatever. So, is he going to bet on himself, roll the dice that he can have a really big year and the price goes up, But if he doesn't do that, Mike, then what? Like, if you don't have that really big year that you expect to have, you've left a lot of money on the table. So it's a big decision to make about, and I know players all believe in themselves, but at some point you got to say, what's going to happen if I don't take this deal? Am I going to make up this money? Am I going to leave this much money on the table? So to me, it's a huge decision for Tua. It's a huge decision for the Dolphins because, has he shown enough to be your franchise quarterback? I guess. You have made the playoffs with him, but he hasn't had the playoff success that you hoped and you wanted. And he's been injured quite a bit in his career. So if I'm the Dolphins, I may let him just play this out, make my best offer, as you said, Mike, and let it play out and see what happens.
Dolphins fans will, some. There is a split among Dolphins fans. You've got the Tua crowd, and you've got a group of Tua truthers who have had enough, and they think you could find somebody else to come in and get as much or more out of the Mike McDaniel offense. Yeah, hey, led the league in passing yards. Well, yeah, you got guys where you can throw a little pass in the flat, and boom, they're gone. You get credit for all those yards after the catch when you do a bubble screen to Tyreek and he takes off for 70 yards. So I made this point when we were talking about Tua recently. The mere fact that every offseason involves some dramatic change to what he's doing tells you that he doesn't believe he's where he needs to be. Last year, it was putting on weight and learning how to fall, and that was the big theme. Now, he's lost at least 25 pounds.
Yeah.
Because now I got to be more agile. I got to be faster. I got to be able to run. And then what's going to happen this year? It's this pendulum that's going back and forth. Franchise quarterbacks don't do that. Franchise quarterbacks are what they are. They play how they play, and they're in the top 5 and the top 10 consistently. They know it. We know it. The team knows it. Everybody knows it. This is Tua trying to figure out what he's going to be as an NFL quarterback. Don't want to be too heavy. Don't want to be too light. Don't want to be too exposed to injury. Don't want to be so thick that I can't move the way that I need to. Where's the happy medium? And he keeps going back and forth. And I just think that's a concession by him at some level, that he's not close to that spot where he needs to be paid like a top 5, top 10 quarterback. So I agree with you that the Cowboys and Dak aren't going to work out a deal. And if they do, it's going to be after he goes to the market and sees that there isn't something dramatically better out there, and he chooses to remain with the team with the blue star on the helmet, because you make a lot more money off the field that way to go along with whatever they're willing to pay you. With Tua and the Dolphins, I really do think this could go either way. And it's all going to come down to how much the Dolphins are willing to commit and whether or not Stephen Ross recognizes, hey, I keep hearing how great my coach is. Maybe there's another quarterback out there that I could get for a lot less that could be as good or better playing with Coach Mike McDaniel. You mentioned Purdy earlier. He's in the 3rd year of his rookie contract. They can't pay him more than they are now. And I've said this before. I hope when we get to the season, there aren't a lot of misleading tweets and graphics during games and takes from people who do what we do that, Brock, look at how, it's embarrassing how little Brock Purdy's making. The 49ers cannot give him a raise. No quarterback can get a second contract until the completion of the 3rd regular season. I keep waiting for one of these guys to say before the playoff run of their 3rd year, I want my contract. The window's open. I want it now. Maybe Purdy will be the one to do it. You could lay the foundation for it and say the day after the regular season ends, I get my contract so I'm protected against injury in the playoff games. Maybe Purdy will be the one who does it, but he's not eligible for it until then. So, by the time he's ready, by the time he's in position, who knows what the market's going to be?
Yeah. And it's only going to go up. And then you have Jordan Love, where does he fit in to all of this? They had to wait. And there's that thing where you have to wait. He just did a mini extension last May. So they had to wait for a full year before they could get a new contract. Well, it's June. So they can do the contract now with Jordan Love. So I'll be interested to see what his number is. And I do think that's the one that gets done, Mike. And I think that one gets done before Dak. And I think it gets done before Tua. I think Jordan Love is the next quarterback who's going to get his big money deal. And his number is going to start with the 5 somewhere in there. I think he's going to go way up from what they've had him for the last few years. Obviously sat behind Aaron Rodgers a long time, but I think we've seen enough to think that he's a franchise quarterback. And I think the Packers believe in him now. So to me, I think he's the one who's the next quarterback for that, as Jerry Jones says, that leaf to fall. I think it's going to be Jordan Love.
I think you're right. Even though it was just half of a season where he really found his groove, he found it, and we saw it manifest itself in the playoffs, and they say nothing but great things about him. And they don't have one owner in Green Bay who is looking to, suck profits away from the balance sheets and go buy a new super yacht. So everything they get can get reinvested in the team. And if that's what it costs to have a great quarterback, that's what it costs. And they go from Favre to Rodgers to Jordan Love. And, some people have suggested maybe another short-term Band-Aid type of a deal. I think Rodgers is in position, or Love, is in position to expect a longer-term contract that pays him commensurately with these guys who are north of $50 million, especially because, as we've said, it's only going to keep going up and up and up. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.